Alka, are you there?
Yeah, I am here, but I can't see your screen, Kita.
Yes, the screen will come up in just 1 second.
Okay.
Okay, we should be live now. And we'll also just record it. Can everyone see the screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Super, we are good to start.
Keith,
Wait,
please
the voice
pin,
is
sir.
okay, right?
Yeah.
Keith, pin, sir.
Is he pinned now? Can you check?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Rajen bhai, should we start?
Yeah, you can start. Please do start.
Do you want to make the text? It's okay. It's fine.
Yeah, I
Okay.
can't understand what you are saying.
No, is the text size okay? Because no, I wanted to make it smaller because I'm able to see only 2, 3 lines. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. This is fine. Rajan, is it okay for you, the text?
Yeah, it's good. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. The technique of correct thinking or the science of thinking. Preparations for higher steps of scientific yoga.
So, the technique of correct thinking and the science of thinking. So, two things we have to understand is that whenever we have a thought, that thought has a portion of memory and that thought has a portion of comparison. Now, can we think without memory? And can we, think with the minimal use of comparison? That is, we use comparison just to start the process of thinking. And then in place of comparison, we try to see a relative kind of thing. Even in that, there will be a slight amount of comparison, so that we are moving away from our mechanical way of thinking into a different way of thinking. So he's going to talk about thinking in this chapter. And we've got to remember that we always face the present moment with thought, and thought is memory, and memory is always of the past. So we never meet the present moment. Right. Okay.
In practically all the books on the subject, writers give definitions of yoga. They
Yeah.
say yoga is to join or to yoke. But what to what?
So he's saying that now there are so many commentaries on the Yoga Sutra, and the meaning of yoga is to join. That is one word, that is to join the lower self to the higher self, or to yoke, to connect the lower self to the higher self. Here we must understand that the meaning, or the practical meaning of the word yoga, Mr. Tavaria, is taken as communication. At each level of the universe, there is communication from Bhu, Bhuva to Swaha. So in Bhu, there is communication between the body and its cells. There's a communication between the brain and the mind, right? So at every level, there is communication. And unless that communication is established, there cannot be yoga. So his definition of yoga was it is communication. And then he says of the three bodies, Bhu, Bhuva, Swaha, the physical brain communicates with the astral brain, and the astral brain communicates with the mental brain. So this is an inner communication which is developed. So it means to join the physical brain to the astral brain, join the astral brain to the mental brain. Now, we have to understand some things over here is that what Mr. Tavaria used to say is that you can't take everything that is written just the way it is written. Many people say it has to be written, whilst Mr. Tavaria was of the opinion, then where would the intelligence of the reader come in, the level of the reader come in? So it is the level of the reader which adds to what is written, and through that there is a communication between the words and the level of being of the person who is reading the words, and something new comes out of that. And that is very important. So, so it will be some unwritten part in the sutra which the rishi has left to awaken our intelligence to fill in that gap. Right. Yeah.
They do not know that themselves, unfortunately, and so write what they please, quite irresponsibly.
Hmm.
Scientific yoga, sorry.
People write what they please. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. No. Sorry.
Uh, Scientific yoga is to join or yoke, one, the individual's awareness of the body, mind, senses, and free will of the physical, astral, and mental bodies and their respective thinking instruments.
Right. So
That
this is
is,
he's saying the same thing. We must understand that this word yoke, it has come from the same, what do you call, the Indo-Persian root, which is yoga, from which yoga has come. So the English word yoke. So I hope people know the meaning of the word yoke. Yoke means to control. So when we have a bullock cart, we put a kind of string around the nose of the bullocks and all that, and that is we yoke them to the cart. They are joined to the cart, but they are yoked. They are controlled by the person riding the cart. Similarly, a horse rider, he yokes the horse, right? So this meaning of the word yoke.
that is brain, manas, and buddhi. Two, pure cosmic consciousness, the divine fragment within these outer coverings.
Now, this is very important. The divine fragment sees. It can only see, right? But see what? What does he say? So cosmic consciousness answers the divine fragment that, okay, I'll give you something to see, and it creates the universes, right? So divine fragment, it has the power of only seeing and not doing anything else, but it wants to see, but there's nothing to see. So cosmic consciousness or Prakriti or Shakti, she comes in and she says, you want to see, I'll allow myself to be seen, right? And this is, so the whole play is of Purush and Prakriti, or Shiva and Shakti, divine fragment and cosmic consciousness.
Between these two is an almost unbridgeable gulf.
Yeah.
How
How do we
shall we,
bridge this? How do we bridge this?
what material? The energy of the essence of consciousness of first grade.
So he's saying so we'll take cosmic consciousness as awareness, and it is like Shiv telling Shakti, I see myself because of you. So before you were there, I was not able to see myself. Similarly, Shiva knows that he has the, what do you call, eyes to see, but he needs a mirror. And Shakti becomes that mirror. Cosmic consciousness becomes that mirror and allows him to see himself. And that energy which bridges the process, the seeing of Shiva with the allowing to see of the of Shakti, that in between energy is the essence of consciousness, right? Essence of consciousness is sublimation of sex energy, right?
With what means? Spiritual will directing this energy under its guidance. The material is the energy of cosmic consciousness of first grade, and the means is spiritual will.
Now, how do we create the energy of cosmic of consciousness? It is through the application of spiritual will, right?
Once 1 and 2 are brought in contact, or rather one is yoked into two, life and purpose become meaningful.
Beautiful. So this is the meaning of yoga, that when this energy number one, which is the divine fragment, and energy number two, the cosmic consciousness, when they are brought together, there's a bridge. When the bridge is created between them and they can communicate with each other, then this is the purpose of yoga, to see that they both meet. And in between, what the energy which allows them to meet is the sublimation of sex energy.
Three.
You do not meet a transcendental teacher, your pure consciousness, the divine fragment. You will have swallowed Mahayana medicine in vain.
Now he's taken some quotations, right? I don't know if this is from the
It's not.
what is that Buddhist sutra? Dhammapada, right? Dhammapada. Right.
As a man reads about doctrines without receiving oral instructions, he will miss the thing really necessary to attainment.
Yes. I mean, if we may read everything, but if that missing gap between reading and experience, which is only through oral instructions of the teacher, then we will miss the real thing. Real thing.
Sage Patanjali's Yoga Sutra is excellent for training along the path of scientific yoga, what some would call work on oneself.
Work on self, right? So Gurdjieff calls it work on self.
The sutras are arranged in 4 books originally, but for study and for yoga practices, they are to be rearranged and rearranged to understand them properly.
Yeah. So there would be sutras of preparation which are connected with preparation. There would be sutras which are connected with the transformation of energy of essence of consciousness one, a two, a three, transformation of essence of consciousness two, uh, and then essence of consciousness one, and connecting the cosmic consciousness with the divine fragment. Yeah.
In Appendix 1, we have given the rearranged Yoga Sutras, now in 5 books, for proper reading.
Hmm.
We do not know how authentic it is, but it is said that sage Patanjali was known for his book 5, which is not traceable, and so it is said that the contents of this 5th book have been handed down by word of mouth only.
Yeah, so this is the first time somebody has said that there was a 5th book, and that has been handed down by word of mouth, and somebody has written down that 5th book. So it's a totally radical way of looking at the Yoga Sutras.
It is a fact of history that Kautilya's Arthashastra simply disappeared after his death, and for over 1,000 years, its contents were not known.
Yeah, go ahead.
Western scholars of political science thought that India, surprisingly, had made no contribution to this subject, as the other writers from India on the subject were far below average.
Yeah,
But
so
in
the
the first,
West was guided by a work on political science called The Prince. I've forgotten the name of the writer of The Prince.
Machiavelli,
Machiavelli, yeah. Machiavelli wrote The Prince, and Western, what do you call, political science, that was the basis of Western political science. And they thought that was the Bible of political science till, what do you call, Kautilya or Chanakya's, this thing came to light. But how it came to light, I don't know, because he says it was lost for 1,000 years.
But in the first quarter of the 20th century, Kautilya's works came to light and proved to be a gold mine on the subject of political science.
Yes.
Today, it is obvious that Kautilya had written a masterly treatise on the subject from every conceivable angle. Yet, before it was discovered, Whenever a mention of its existence was made, Western scholars gave a skeptical smile.
There is one Chinese book also on the subject, if anybody remembers the name.
Sun Tzu, The Art of
Ah,
War.
The Art of War. The Art of War.
Sun
yes.
Tzu.
Uh,
Sun Tzu.
And it has Sun Tzu, The Art of War has a lot of, it is also very spiritual also. There's a whole Zen side to it.
Probably you had talked about the book somewhere
Huh?
else. Probably you had talked about the book,
No, I have just talked a little bit
or
about
you have mentioned the reference of the book
it. Right.
years ago.
Huh.
It is likewise possible that a masterly treatise on the Yoga Sutra, Book 5 by sage Patanjali, may have been lost and, like Kautilya's Arthashastra, may come to light in the future, perhaps after centuries.
Yeah. So the Yoga Sutra he has written is the fifth book.
It is conceivable that the sage must have expounded for his chosen disciples a masterly treatise on the sutras explaining in detail various practices.
Right.
For the sage is not the author of the sutras. These sutras were scattered in the scriptures of his time, and he was able to compile them systematically. And just for compiling them, he would not be entitled to be called a Bhagwan, for in his days, Bhagwans were not as plentiful as in our days.
Right. Okay.
Should I? Okay. In the meantime, there is no need to be skeptical about its existence. Even today, manuscripts are unearthed daily, and authorship is traced and proved. So, hereunder, we present whatever we have been able to gather from word of mouth concerning the fifth book of the Yoga Sutra.
Right.
Before reading further, the reader is requested to study the preliminary practices in chapter 11, especially the sections of drifts of the mind and what they signify.
That
The
is
corrective
chapter 11 of this one, Purpose of Birth and Death.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
But it
The preliminary practices, that is refining exercises and three-step rhythmic breathing. Right. So in this purpose, there's a chapter on the drifts of the mind.
I don't remember it.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Chapter 11, there is drift and corrective exercises.
At least he's mentioned all the kinds of drifts.
Yes,
Okay.
but not like what he has explained in the inner discipline.
Not like that. Right.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, we'll continue reading from here only. Yeah. Okay. As if we already know chapter 11. Yeah. All of us are very enlightened people, so it will go.
Especially the sections on drifts of the mind and what they signify, the corrective exercises, and the three-step rhythmic breathing. Without this background, it'll be difficult to appreciate what follows. Sage Patanjali had to say in detail on yama and niyama, which are not merely commandments and rules of conduct. We have explained in some detail in another book, Yoga Sutra of Sage Patanjali, Exposition and Practices. The first sutra to understand is Book 4, Sutra 15. Read as Sutra 15 in the original Book 4 of the Yoga Sutra, which goes, these two, conscious and form, are distinct and separate. Though forms may be similar, the consciousness may function on differing levels of beings.
Yeah. It form is what we see with our physical eye. And with the physical senses, we cannot see consciousness. So two people of very similar form, they both may be doctors, they both may be what do you call, very good in their fields. So the form is similar, but one may be at a very high level of consciousness and one may be completely mechanical. So that cannot be seen from the outer form, and they may be both sitting together and delivering a lecture on the same subject, right? And the mechanical one may deliver a better lecture also, right? But the level of being of each of them is totally different. So, I mean, we meet people in life. What we see is only the outer form. We cannot see the level of being. And it takes a different eye to see the level of being. So he's saying the two, consciousness and form, are distinct and separate, right? It means a person may have a very beautiful body and may be very healthy, but a very low level of consciousness. He may be very famous, very successful, and a person who may not have a very good outer appearance and may seem that he's a bore sitting in a corner, but he may have a higher level of consciousness. So consciousness and form cannot be equated in that way. Yeah.
This is a fact of primary importance. From
Yeah.
what we have stated earlier, we understand that consciousness is of the divine fragment and belongs to the domain of creation. And form, that is body and mind, belongs to the domain of existence and functions through awareness.
So form is of body and mind. Body and mind, right? Right. So mind also has a form. It doesn't have a what you call gross form. It has a subtle form, and even soul has a form. It has a very subtle form. But the spirit, which is from which the soul has come, it does not have a form. So form can be very gross, as in a physical body, right up to very, very subtle form, which is of the soul. Yeah.
That awareness that the transitoriness of body and mind has no commonality with the immutability of the divine fragment.
Can you read that again? Sorry.
The transitoriness of body and mind has no commonality with the immutability of the divine fragment.
So there are two parts to every human being, something which never changes and something which is transitory. It is changing every moment, and that body and mind are changing every moment, right? And the divine fragment is immutable. Nothing can change in the divine fragment. Nothing can be added to it. Nothing can be subtracted from it. It cannot be what you call drawn on any paper. It cannot be known through any of the senses, right? And the only way of knowing it is by creating that missing link, the energy of a sense of consciousness, first create. Yeah.
Uh, yeah, but the link between them has to be established, for it has a purpose to fulfill.
So the link has to be established right from the lower level between mind and body, mind and higher mind, mind and soul, and then soul and divine fragment. So at each level, the links have to be established. And these links are done by upgrading the energy of a sense of consciousness.
Creation and existence have to be understood, and the purpose of existence ought by now to be somewhat clear and understandable.
Right. So the purpose of existence, the initial purpose of existence is redemption, and then the higher purpose of existence is to create the energy of a sense of consciousness. Right.
Further, it is also to be understood that on the upward arc, the hold of the divine fragment on body and mind is taking an ever firmer grip.
Yeah. So now he's saying that the higher is controlling the lower. Just now, the lower is controlling the higher. The subtle body is being controlled by the desires, the hungers, the temptations of the physical body. Now, once there is separation between the astral and the physical, then the astral cannot be controlled by the physical. Now, the astral is controlling the physical body, right? So, if I want to be tempted, I can be tempted. Otherwise, I cannot be tempted, right? So, the astral is controlling the physical. And then later on, the higher controls even the astral. And at one point, the control comes from the divine fragment. But the control which comes from the divine fragment is because of spiritual will. And uh, spiritual will is effortless effort, controlless control. So it's a very different kind of control over here. Right. Yeah.
And this results in different expressions of the individuals. This hold will keep on increasing, the communication will keep getting better.
Yeah, we should put this in reverse order. As the communication is established, the more we will, what do you call, the grace of the divine fragment will control the lower bodies.
This also has to be grasped. We have said enough about creation and existence, and under what conditions the divine fragments accepted their wanderings in the three universes of existence.
Yeah, he has given the whole story. Yeah.
First, down the arc for eternities, as the vibrations were rapidly and steadily lowered at a constant rate to make the planes of existence,
Hmm.
along with body, mind, senses, and free will, cruder and grosser.
Hmm.
And then on the upward arc for eternities, as the vibrations will keep increasing, and form, senses, and free will once again become subtle, refined, and sensitive.
Yeah. So there's a downward arc and there is an upward arc. In the upward arc, there is a, what do you call, continuous refinement of the senses and the brain and what do you call, the bodies and mind, body, mind, senses, and free will. Whilst on the upward arc, there is a constant process to separate the, what do you call, soul from being identified with the body, mind, and senses. These two things go together: purification and separation, right? At one point, the soul realizes it is separate, and at one point, the body, mind, and senses are refined to such an extent that they can give you a experience of the divine fragment.
When the downward arc ends in the grossest point, nadir, the consciousness is encased within such brute forms and amidst such brutal surroundings that in substages 1, 2, 3 of Bhu on the upward arc, the divine fragment could get nothing by way of cooperation and coordination from the form,
Yeah, man the animal, right? Mm.
whose awareness is at so low an ebb that they cannot take any guidance.
Mm.
In
They
sub
live at the animal level, the four things which animals live for, right? That is the fear, what are the four?
Food,
Bhai,
feed.
Nidra,
Ahar, Nishra,
Maithun,
Bhai,
Bhai and
Maithun.
Ahar,
Maithun.
Nidra, Maithun,
Bhai,
Bhai
Bhai,
and
Maithun.
and
Maithun.
Bhai. Four. The four which, and man is living at that level in the stages, sub-stages 1, 2, 3.
And
I
in
don't know if
these
you've
three
seen the movie
substages,
1 Million
there is
BC.
no joining of astral body at all.
Huh?
No joining of astral body in these three substages.
Yeah. Hmm.
in
Yeah.
substage 4, at the beginning also it is not possible. But at a later stage, about 1 lakh years before our present day, hardly a few moments on the cosmic clock, mind, body, senses, and free will just about respond. Free will
Hmm.
were just about to respond, but only in a few rare individuals.
Yeah. So today we are 1 lakh years away from that point. and only a few individuals will respond to the higher. That is, the body, mind, and senses will respond to the higher, but the humanity as a mass still will not change.
See, let's say 1 lakh years before our present, there
Okay.
were a few people who were able to respond.
Yes.
Are you saying that, or are you saying that today, even though we are 1 lakh years, only few people can respond?
Uh, in substage 4 at the beginning, also it is not possible, but at a later stage,
Uh,
about 100,000 years before our present day,
before our president. Sorry.
mind, body, senses, and free will were just about to respond, but only in a few rare individuals.
The rishis,
Yes.
yes. The rishi. You're right. You're right.
For humanity as a mass of people, there's still time, and that time is coming nearer.
Right.
We, the present humanity, find ourselves at this critical stage.
Hmm.
So, a difficult problem is on our hands today. Before this question of divine fragments, could, if body and mind would, is there a more important step of establishing communications between the two?
Yeah.
That is, yoking the latter to the former.
Hmm.
This, shall I continue?
Yeah,
This
go ahead.
is of okay. This is of primary importance and necessity. The divine fragments regularly send and keep sending coded signs and signals, but body and mind are even today not aware. Otherwise, why so skeptical a view on subtler bodies, the divine fragments within that can guide them?
Yeah. So the higher is always sending coded messages, but we are not able to receive them. And because we are not able to receive them, we become skeptical. We say we can't see God, so there is no God, and there is nothing like an astral body. Can you see the astral body? Can you see it in a laboratory or something? And it's not possible. So because and those who have an opening to this, that is in Gurujev's language, have a magnetic center. They are open that there is something higher and you can receive what you call messages from the higher, then that is the beginning of the inner journey that towards that higher.
Or in Tavariaji's language, the development of the sensitivity.
Sensitivity, energy of sensitivity, right? You have become sensitive to something higher.
Higher.
Just now I'm sensitive to you insulting me. So there's a long way for me to become sensitive to something higher. Right? Unless I take that energy of sensitivity from you insulting me to be able to wait and just hold it so that something higher I can sense and it descends into it. Yeah.
But even before this, the secondary physical body and its thinking instrument, the brain, should be made aware of the existence of the primary astral body and its thinking instrument, manas.
Yeah. So that's very important that we start from the first step. And the first step is separating the physical and the astral. Right? Now, if you insult me and I don't allow myself to react, right? And I separate myself from the mood of being insulted, from the state of being insulted, from the bad mind of being insulted. And I separate myself. I say, I am watching this bad mind, this miserable mind which feels insulted. Right? I and this miserableness are separate. Suddenly, that I is the astral eye speaking, and it is looking at the what do you call the physical eye. The lower body is looking, the higher body is looking at the lower body. This must happen in our daily life every day.
And communication should be, just drag up,
Where's that?
established between them.
Yeah.
This is the easiest step for both the physical body and brain and the astral body and manas work with awareness, a common quality.
Hmm. Right.
And then the two should jointly establish, or rather accept, the communication sent by divine fragment. So the steps are:
So first of all is to separate the two. Then the two together, they now look up to the divine fragment, right? In Yoga Sutra, we say Ishwar Pranidhana. Yeah.
one is establish communication between physical, cellular, brain, and astral molecular body, manas.
Yeah.
This calls for intense rhythm between the individual awareness, and this rhythm can only be established by imposing the three-step rhythmic breathing as the correct way of breathing for all 24 hours.
Yes. If the breathing does not get upset, the body remains in a state of peace. If the body remains in a state of peace, then the mind does not get upset. If the mind does not stops getting upset, then a point comes when I stop feeling the pain of your insult. Right? I realize that this is just a mechanical this thing, and I separate, right? Uh, separate from it. Right. And so in that can be done by the three-step rhythmic breathing. Right. I don't know how many people are really practicing, but please do practice. Right.
Shimal has
Well,
left a comment.
Yeah.
She thinks so. In a way, insult is grace for sadhana.
Yeah. I hope Shimal understands that. She has said golden words. Right. I hope she understands what she's saying. Yeah.
2. Then jointly both the bodies and thinking instruments are to be made aware of the signs and signals sent by the divine fragment and follow the directions given.
Yes. Yes. There must be a higher communication established. So we must understand this thing called I. As long as we are nourishing this thing called I, this is never possible. I want to do this for my comfort. I want to do this for my pleasure. I want to do this for my happiness. Right? And I want to do this for freedom from the I. Right? And that is something totally different. He insulted me, I. Right? Uh, so this where the I, everything, as long as everything is personal in life, right? It is never possible for what do you call us to separate from the higher. We must be free of the personal, and this takes really hard practice to be free of the personal, right? So if you can just stop using the word I. He insulted me, but whom did he insult? You're not allowed to use the word I. We don't know. Better go and find that guy. Hmm? So then it is possible for the higher signals to come in. But as long as there is a reaction inside, it will never allow the higher signals to come in. It's not possible that reaction and grace can both, what do you call, occupy the same area in the mind. It's not possible. Yeah.
For
So
it
the
is the
pattern of
greatest,
reaction has to go. The basic pattern of reacting has to go.
for it is the greatest of all teachers. It is, in fact, the transcendental teacher.
Yeah.
What are the simple steps we must follow and practice to make this possible? At the stage we are in, great confusion exists in our bodies and brains, which are not able to establish this essential communication with the consciousness,
Hmm.
the divine fragment.
Yeah.
In
So
the
there is,
absence of Sorry.
confusion inside. Confusion. So what are the steps to be followed to free ourselves from that confusion and to establish the essential communication? Yeah.
In the absence of this contact, all search is naturally outward only, and all efforts so directed outside of the human frame can only lead to frustration.
Right. Right. So all outside efforts are called science, and all inside efforts are called spirituality. Right.
We have also noted that after reaching Nadir, the restriction on making attempts towards return to the source is lifted, and that it is no more prohibited to return to the source as and when one can.
Right. Then you can all make efforts, but that is at stage 4. Yeah.
The divine fragments, due to inbuilt ability to return to the source, can make the journey home immediately. But as per the last rule of the game of existence, they have to redeem all bodies and respective thinking instruments of all the previous births that were degenerated on the downward arc.
Yes. Redemption. So we come back to this point of redemption. And every moment in life, this redemption should be right in front of our minds, that this moment has come for redemption. And how do I redeem myself in this moment? Right? By reacting, I cannot redeem myself. By reacting, I make the what you call downward arc more powerful. Now they're more powerful. Right? So the first point is to pause the reaction. Right? Thing is that we can put it in 3 stages. Acknowledgement, observation, and non-identification. First of all, we must acknowledge that this is for redemption. So every situation in our life is for redemption. If my wife is like this, it is because of redemption. And as long as I find fault in my wife, I can never redeem myself. I've lost this life. Right? But people keep finding fault, and then they find fault, so they don't acknowledge that this is for the come for redemption. Because they find fault, they always find fault with the other. Right? If I didn't have such a wife, I would be such a spiritual person. Right? Or if I didn't have such a wife, I would be such a rich person. Right? This is not possible. So everything that has come in our life is for redemption. And the only way out is first is to acknowledge it. That is, acknowledgement needs acceptance. We must accept at the being level, not just intellectual level, that this has come, I have invited it, and it cannot be in any other way. This is the only way it can be. Now, how do I find my way out of this? By blaming the other, it is not possible. By cursing the other, it is not possible. By finding fault with the other, it is not possible. Right? Then I'll still live at the level we are. And there are people who live at that level. They love to live at that level because they find so much joy in criticizing the other. They find so much joy in putting down the other that their only sense of happiness is in putting down the other, getting revenge upon the other. And they can never rise, right? So it's very important, this what he's talking about, that everything in our life has come from redemption of previous births. Right? Okay.
Full coordination and cooperation of the awareness of all the bodies and thinking instruments with consciousness, with the consciousness, the divine fragment, is therefore absolutely essential.
So now, if I want to redeem myself, there must be coordination and cooperation. Right? Now, there is at present in the machine, there is no coordination and cooperation. The thinking center does something, the emotional center does something else. There's no coordination or cooperation between them. And the what do you call, the instinctive center goes in a totally different direction. The thinking center says, I want to diet, but the instinctive center says, okay, I'll diet from tomorrow. Today, let me have something good to eat, right? So there's no coordination and cooperation in the centers. So the machine is in total disarray. Now you want to use this machine to redeem yourself. You cannot use this machine to redeem yourself unless these four centers come into rhythm and balance. And the basic way of bringing them into rhythm and balance is through the three-step rhythmic breathing, then through understanding. So acknowledgement and then observation. We must be able to observe the patterns which we have accumulated, how those patterns operate, how those patterns express themselves in our daily living. I'm relating to you, I'm talking to you on the road. I have to at the same time observe how my old patterns are forcing me to think in a certain direction, act in a certain way, uh, talk to you in a certain way. And I suddenly realize how they are controlling me, and I try to separate from them. This is separating the astral from the physical, right? So it's there must be acknowledgement, then there that first of all acceptance, then there must be observation, and then through observation non-identification. Then I say no, I won't go with the pattern. I don't want to. I will stand separate from the pattern, right? I will stand in on ground which is separate from the pattern, right? So, but before we can do anything, there must be coordination and cooperation of all the instruments we have been gifted with, the mind, body, and senses. There must be coordination and cooperation. Just now, everything is going haywire. It's like all these people are living in the same house, but everybody is doing their own thing and nobody is bothered about the house.
The building of a shell leads to separateness and necessitates the eventual overcoming of the shell already built.
Right. I'll push from inside and she will peck from outside. So when a bird has given birth to an egg, and then she incubates that egg by sitting on that egg, then a time comes when the fetus inside the egg is a little alive and it wants to escape from the egg. And at that time, the little chick inside tries to break the shell of the egg to come out of the egg, but it finds it difficult. So the mother bird, she uses her beak to help the chick. So the chick is pushing from inside with its beak, which is a very fragile, soft beak, and the mother from outside is pecking to allow the what do you call chick to come. In the same way, we are in this egg of existence, boo boo aswa. We have to push from inside, and if we push from inside, then the Gayatri, the mother from outside, will peck from outside and she'll open a hole for us to come out, right? So, but unless we start pushing from inside, she's not going to peck from outside.
In existence, the divine fragment is encased in one or two shells or bodies and keeps fabricating more shells.
Yeah, go ahead.
Unless we eventually
We are in
disintegrate
egg
these
within egg, shell within shell, body within body.
unless we eventually disintegrate these bodies by redeeming, the divine fragments cannot regain the original
So, what is the process of pecking? What is the process of getting out of the shell? Redemption is the process. Redemption is right. Not sitting in meditation, right? The only because after 10 years of meditation and somebody disturbs you, you'll get angry. So there's no redemption. And if you see all the meditators, they are so, what do you call, they have such an ego about their meditation, right? That I don't know which journey they have done, right? And so there must be this redemption is the only key to escape from existence. Hmm. Yeah.
The divine fragments cannot regain.
Alka, read this paragraph and then we'll stop for questions. Yeah.
Okay.
Hmm.
The divine fragments cannot regain their original unconfined condition and reach their home creation.
Hmm.
Unless we do this, the divine fragments cannot regain their original unconfined condition and reach their original home. So, to restore bodies and minds of the three universes back to their original condition, their ability to respond to and to cooperate with divine fragments is expressly necessary.
Yes. So we must be open to the communication which is coming. Right. And one of the, what do you call, characteristics that some communication is understanding and joy. That suddenly you understand a situation and you understand not because of your logical thinking about something higher has entered. And there is so much joy in that situation, as if you can, it brings a tremendous amount of joy, that understanding. And that is freedom from that pattern. So you have redeemed one pattern in that thing. Yeah. Any questions, anyone else? Any?
Real
There is a question by Realme 9 Pro Plus.
Please ask him to identify himself. I don't know who's Realme Pro 9 Plus.
It
At
is
least I
the
should
name
know
of the
whom I'm
mobile.
talking to. Yeah. I don't want to talk to a machine here.
Are you still here? Realme 9 Pro Plus? Yes, still seems to be here. Asking you to unmute yourself. If you could please unmute yourself.
Tell him to ask the question and tell him to say who he is, at least. I would like to answer him rather than the question.
Yeah.
Hello, sir. My name is Mithil.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead,
I,
please. Nikhil, go ahead.
I wanted to know what is exactly meant by the grace of divine fragment, if you can explain once again.
So I gave the example of the mother bird pecking the egg so that the small bird can come out, right?
Yes.
So when we make an effort to escape from Bhu Bhuva Swaha by destroying the patterns and redeeming ourselves, then in every redemption, grace will descend from the divine fragment. Something will descend, which will help us in our next redemption. So if we redeem one pattern and we feel the moksha, the freedom of one pattern, freedom from one pattern. Supposing you insult me, and at that time I don't react, I pause, right? And then I see that my getting angry and is pulling me into the anger and wants to throw everything back on you. I separate from that. I look at my anger. I say, I and the anger are different, right? And in that moment, there is freedom from the pattern of anger. In that freedom, there is because I have destroyed the reaction, the pattern of anger. So there is an empty space, and in that empty space, the light from the divine fragment, understanding from the divine fragment descends. Grace from the divine fragment descends. I become what you call deserving of his or her grace, the higher grace. Right? I don't know if have I answered your question?
Yes. Yes, exactly.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Right.
And just another question. Like, there is, on one hand, we have a divine fragment on one side, and we have, let's say, a physical body on
We have three
other
body
side.
brain systems on the other side.
Yes. So all the part between one end and the other end, let's say a divine fragment and the lowest, like the physical body,
Yeah.
all the in between part is known as essence, or is it known as something else?
Oh, yeah. Now, the essence is something different. Essence is something which is encased in the three bodies. So the divine fragment has no form, but to travel through the three worlds, it takes upon an astrological form which is called as essence. Right? Now all our patterns are in essence. Right? So supposing I'm a very angry person, then the essential quality of Mars is higher in me. Can you get it? So essence is the
Yes.
soul. Divine fragment is the original light. Right? But
Okay.
we can't see the source of light. The light comes out and it gets what do you call, it takes a form in astrological matter, in astral matter, and that is why it is called an astral body. Right? And so the astral body has astrological matter plus light of the divine, and together they form something called the soul. The soul makes its journey. So our first effort is to reach to the soul, to purify the soul of all the patterns which are clinging to it. And that is, we purify the astral matter in that.
Okay.
I don't know, it may not be so clear. Is it clear?
Yeah, it is clear, but the only thing I don't understand is that કે આપણે જે ગ્રેસ ડિસેન્ડ આપણે વાત થઈ કે ડિવાઇન ફ્રેગમેન્ટ દ્વારા જે ગ્રેસ આવે છે, એટલે જ્યારે આપણે આપણા એસ્ટ્રલમાં અથવા કે કોઈ પણ બોડીમાં જે એસેન્સમાં જે સંસ્કાર પડ્યા છે એને આપણે ઓબ્ઝર્વ કરીએ છીએ, એના કારણે એ ગ્રેસ ડિસેન્ડ થાય છે કે
એ સંસ્કાર ત્રણેય બોડીમાંથી ઓપરેટ થાય છે.
ઓકે.
એટલે અત્યારે મારી અંદર જેલેસીનો સંસ્કાર છે, રાઈટ? તો એ પેટર્ન મારા ચિત્તની અંદર જગ્યા તો રોકે છે કે નથી રોકતું? સે
Okay.
યસ ઓર નો?
Yeah.
હા, હવે એ જેલેસીના સંસ્કારમાંથી હું મુક્ત થાઉં તો એ જગ્યા ખાલી થઈ કે નથી થઈ?
ખાલી થઈ, ચિત્ત શુદ્ધિ થઈ.
હા, તો હવે અંદર જગ્યા ખાલી રાખવાની છૂટ નથી, તરત જ ગ્રેસ ડિસેન્ડ થશે અને જગ્યાને ભરી દેશે.
એટલે ડિવાઇન ફ્રેગમેન્ટનો પ્રતિબિંબ પડશે.
એની કૃપા એન્ટર થશે અને એ હાયર અન્ડરસ્ટેન્ડિંગના રૂપમાં, હાયર સેન્સિટિવિટીના રૂપમાં એ એન્ટર થશે.
ઓકે.
ફરીથી કોઈ કે ઝઘડો કર્યો તો ગુસ્સાનો પેટર્ન છે, તો ગુસ્સાના પેટર્નમાંથી મુક્તિ, ખાલી જગ્યા થઈ ગઈ તો ખાલી જગ્યામાં કંઈક તો ભરવું પડે એટલે પાછું એ ભરી દેશે ત્યાં. જેમ જેમ ખાલી જગ્યા કરતા જશું એ ભરતું જશે.
Yeah, okay.
એ ખાલી જગ્યા કરવું આપણું રિડેમ્પશન છે.
Yes.
અને
Right.
રિડેમ્પશન કરીને આપણને મેડલ પહેરાવવું એ એનું કામ છે.
Yes, right.
હા,
Okay.
ઓકે.
Thank you so much.
Uncle Mehul here.
Yeah,
Uh, some reading back, we discussed about difference between awareness and consciousness. So can we say that observer is awareness and the witness is consciousness?
I'm not getting what you're asking.
I mean, this is not from this reading, but some reading back, we discussed about the difference between awareness and consciousness.
Right.
So can we say that observer is on a awareness and witness is on a consciousness?
You can say it, but it has to be experienced. Right? See, the awareness is for redemption. The minute you redeem a small space in the chitta, that is filled with consciousness. Consciousness is His grace. That consciousness was already there, but because of the pattern, it was not seen. Now the pattern has gone and you see that already consciousness was there in that space. Right?
Okay.
So through awareness, you see consciousness.
Okay.
Shall we stop here? Yeah.
Gurudev, may I ask one question before you leave?
Please do. Please do. Please do.
Pranam.
So good to hear from you.
How are you doing? You well?
Yeah, I'm getting better. Yeah.
Please do. Yes, please do. It's good to see you. I would like to know, with communication with the higher, right? How are we to know whether messages or in that communication, we are not using the imaginary I in our communication with the higher. Yeah.
No, once you practice self-observation,
Mhm.
you're observing all the forms of imaginary
Eyes. Yes.
whatever form it can take. Over a period of time, you've recognized all those forms.
Is it a lifetime? Hey, can't be. We
No,
can't
no,
get rid of it.
no. With understanding, maximum 1 or 2 years.
Okay.
But you must practice.
Thank you.
Nobody practices, right? People feel they don't have anything to observe. They've already risen above it. And their daily life speaks different. The
Thank
thing
you,
is
Gurudev.
that there must be what you call authentic self-observation. Then there's nothing like imaginary I left. Now there is the observing I, and that observing I will grow into a higher I.
Is that communication in the form of a voice, or is it in the form of intuition, or is it in the form of knowing?
Light and understanding.
Okay.
Right?
Thank
I'm able to throw light, and I'm able to understand the situation. And many times this understanding comes without the interference of logical mind thinking and logic and what you call thought.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Right? And the outcome is always joy. Right? Okay, we'll stop here. Yeah, Ivan.
Yeah. Thank you, Rajan. Thank you.
I just want to say something. We'll now meet on 15th Sunday.
Okay.
15th Sunday we'll meet. Right?
15th, no, July.
20th.
July. After Guru
20th
One
Sunday.
second, one second.
No, it's the 13th.
Right, July,
No,
13th. So
20th.
it will be 20th of July.
Okay.
20th of July.
20th of July we'll meet. Right.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thanks a lot, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, bye.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, sir.
Rajan bhai, jai bhagwan.